I didn't think it was possible for something to watch you. Not in the way that chills your blood and makes your skin crawl. But that night, in the pouring rain, I realized some fears are real. And some monsters don't hide. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a like and comment so you won't miss any of these terrifying true stories. Watch until the very end. The final twist will shock you more than anything you've imagined. The night it all started, the storm was relentless. Rain hammered the streets, reflecting the amber glow of streetlights and puddles that stretched like mirrors across the cracked asphalt. I was driving home from a late shift, exhausted, barely paying attention to the monotonous rhythm of windshield wipers. That's when I first noticed it. A figure, standing at the edge of an alley, completely still. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, a shadow cast by the flickering street lamp. But as I approached, the figure remained perfectly still, too perfectly, and its silhouette seemed unnaturally tall and possibly thin. Something about the way it held itself didn't belong to a human body. My stomach tightened. I blinked, and it was gone. Shaking off the feeling, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone was sheltering from the storm. Maybe it was a coat rack-shaped pile of garbage. My mind grasped for explanations, but when I turned onto the next street, I saw it again. This time, closer, standing at the corner, watching, waiting. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled. I gripped the wheel tighter. My rational mind whispered, "It's nothing. Just a passerby." But every instinct screamed that this was no ordinary person. The air around the figure seemed to bend, to distort. Even the rain looked different as it fell around it. Slower, heavier, almost deliberate. I took a deep breath and kept driving, hoping distance would make it vanish. But no matter how many turns I made, how fast I sped through the slick streets, the figure reappeared. Always ahead, always waiting. The shadows it cast weren't normal. They stretched impossibly long, as if the night itself were warped by its presence. By the time I reached a quieter street, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the wheel. I thought about calling someone, anyone, but the rain drowned out the sound of my own voice on the phone. And when I tried, I noticed something even more unsettling. The lines were dead. Not busy. Dead. Silent. Parking outside my apartment, I convinced myself the nightmare was over. I rushed inside, bolted the door, and double-checked the locks. Every shadow in my apartment looked alive, stretching toward me in the dim glow of the hallway light. I could feel my heartbeat thundering in my ears. Then, from somewhere in the darkness, a faint tapping sound. 1, 2, 3. Slowly, deliberately. On the window I had locked a dozen times before. Primera fros? Eh. The rational part of me screamed that it was just the rain or a branch, but my mind knew better. I knew that figure had followed me inside. In soma sense, invisible, patient, watching. The tapping continued. I held my breath, waiting, praying, until finally it stopped. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window, watching the storm rage. Every street outside reflecting the flickering lamplight, every shadow hiding a secret. And then, just before dawn, I saw it again. The same silhouette, standing across the street, unmoving, waiting. Its presence was oppressive, silent, as if it had been anticipating me all along. The following days were worse. Every time I stepped outside, every flicker of movement in the corner of my eye set my nerves on edge. I began noticing details I had anteed before. A single shoe on the sidewalk where none should be. Footprints in the rain that led nowhere. Doors slightly ajar, though I had locked them. It felt like the city itself was watching me, guiding me towards something I didn't want to say. Curiosity overpowered fear. I began to drive the streets at night, hoping to catch a clearer glimpse of the figure, to understand what I was dealing with. And every time, it appeared, always at the edge of my vision, always just ahead, sometimes almost teasing me with its movements. The rain, the shadows, the silence, all amplified the terror. I reached out to friends, showing them photos of streets, describing the figure. Most laughed it off, nervously joking, but a few hesitated. Their eyes widened when I mentioned the details. The impossibly long shadows, the unnatural stillness, the deliberate presence. "You're not the only one whispered. "There are others who've seen it. Don't go out alone." That realization chilled me. This wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. The figure had been seen before, over the years, stories dismissed as urban legend. And now, it had chosen me. I could feel it marking my life. An invisible hand shaping my every step, my every choice. I started documenting every encounter, every anomaly. Rain patterns, shadows, sounds, everything. I even set up a camera outside my building. That's when I finally captured it. At first it looked like a blur in the footage, but as I watched frame by frame, the figure moved impossibly fast, gliding across the street, bending shadows, twisting light. It wasn't human. It wasn't real. And yet, there it was. Waiting, watching. Sleep became impossible. Every creak, every flicker of light, every whisper of wind made me jump. I felt its presence everywhere, in my dreams, waking hours, even in reflections where it shouldn't exist. And each time it seemed to grow closer, studying me, preparing me for something I didn't understand. Then came the first note. Plain, white paper, sliding under my door. No envelope, just a single line. "You can't escape." I stared at the words, stomach twisting. My rational mind screamed to ignore it. But deep down I knew it was true. The figure wasn't just observing anymore. It was reaching out, marking me, claiming me. Every shadow, every street, every rainy night became a countdown. And I had no idea how long I could last before it found me again. The nights that followed were worse than I could have imagined. Every time I closed my eyes, the rain-soaked streets appeared before me, not as memory, but as a living nightmare. I started noticing small things I had ignored before. Shadows moving in the corner of my vision, the faint sound of footsteps in empty hallways, a tapping at the window when no one was outside. It was as if the figure from that first night had followed me home, lingering, patient, invisible yet omnipresent. One evening, desperate for some semblance of normalcy, I decided to drive through a different route, anything to avoid the industrial district. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. I took a long detour, twisting through narrow streets I barely recognized. The rain had returned, tapping relentlessly against the windshield, a rhythmic sound that usually comforted me, but now filled me with unease. That's when I saw it again. At first, I thought it was a trick of the reflection, a dark silhouette near the corner of an alleyway. But as I got closer, the figure stepped into the dim streetlight, just for a fleeting moment. My chest tightened. The face, if it could be called that, was featureless, a void, yet somehow I felt its gaze pierce straight through me. My hands gripped the wheel until my knuckles ached. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone was playing a cruel joke. Maybe it was a stranger taking advantage of the storm. But the movements were too unnatural, deliberate, precise. Every instinct screamed, this was no ordinary person, no harmless shadow. Then came the sounds. Low, almost imperceptible whispers that seemed to circle the car. I rolled down the windows despite the rain, hoping it might just be the wind, but it wasn't. The whispers had words, fragmented and unintelligible, yet urgent, pressing into my mind. My stomach churned, fear twisting my insides. I wanted to stop, to flee, but the figures seemed to anticipate every turn I made, every desperate attempt to put distance between us. That night, sleep became impossible. I sat in my apartment, lights on, windows locked, every noise amplified into something sinister. A single creak of the floorboards made my heart leap. The storm outside mirrored the chaos inside my mind. I began noticing strange details I had missed before. Fingerprints on my door that weren't mine. A faint wet footprint on my balcony that led nowhere. The chilling sensation of being touched by something cold, though no one was there. I reached out to friends, showing them photos of the industrial district, describing the figure. Most laughed, nervously, brushing it off, but a few hesitated. Their expressions changed when they read my description. Wide eyes, sudden silence. "You're not the only one whispered over the phone. "We've all seen it. Don't go there alone." The realization hit me like ice. This wasn't random. This wasn't a one-time encounter. The figure was real, and it had history. People had seen it for years, scattered stories dismissed as urban legend, until now, and somehow, it had marked me. I began researching obsessively, digging through forums, obscure news articles, and videos. People spoke of the same dark silhouette, always appearing near rain. Always I land watching. Some vanished entirely, others returned, but never the same. Something changed inside them. Lingering fear, paranoia, the sense of being hunted. Then, one night, it escalated. Primera agua se tomé, reviewing footage from a security camera I'd installed outside my building. Terry 8 was moving along the street in the rain, impossibly fluid. Stopping to stare directly at the camera, the chilling part. As it moved, shadows around it twisted unnaturally, bending light as if reality itself recoiled from its presence. I felt bile rise in my throat. This wasn't human. This wasn't of this world. Desperate, I followed the pattern of its sightings. Trying to understand, I traced its movements from one encounter to another. Each was brief, almost ceremonial, like it was testing me, observing me. The whispers returned, clearer now. I could swear I heard my name. One night, in a deserted parking lot, I finally saw it clearly. Rain poured down in sheets, wind whipping around me, and there it was. Taller than any human, its void-like face reflecting nothing, not even the faintest light. Its hand raised, and I felt an overwhelming compulsion to obey. I froze, every muscle locked in terror. Time slowed. Then, with a motion so fast, it blurred. It was gone, but I wasn't safe yet. When I returned home, my apartment had changed. The layout felt subtly wrong. Furniture slightly moved, shadows in corners thicker, darker, alive. The sense of being watched was unbearable. I left lights on, every door locked, but the whispers continued. Now inside my head, echoing when no one was around. Every reflection in a mirror, every flicker of light, I saw it. Waiting. Patient. Knowing I was terrified. Friends tried to intervene. One even suggested professional help. But how do you explain something that leaves no trace, yet haunts every step you take? How do you justify paranoia when reality bends around the presence? They stopped visiting. Phones went unanswered. I was isolated, trapped in a world where shadows moved with intent, where the rain carried a message only I could hear. Then came the note. Plain, white paper, no envelope, sliding under my door in the dead of night, written in a script I couldn't recognize. You can't escape. I thought about leaving, moving CTS, but the thought didn't bring relief. Only dread. The figure had a range, a territory. Leaving didn't mean safety. It meant being followed further, to streets I didn't know, neighborhoods I couldn't recognize. Every turn of my life seemed dictated by an unseen observer. Sleep became a luxury I could no longer afford. Dreams turned into extensions of the nightmare. The figure appeared there too, always at a distance, always watching, gliding silently. I began to notice small details in reality that mirrored the dreams. The same puddles, the same flicker of light, the same whispers carried by the wind. And yet, I couldn't stop. Something about documenting, tracking, trying to understand made me feel alive, or perhaps less insane. I started following patterns, mapping sightings, predicting its appearances, but it was always one step ahead. Every time I thought I'd anticipate its moves, I was wrong. The terror wasn't just physical, it was psychological, pervasive, inescapable. One evening, I received another message. Not digital this time. A small package left at my doorstep, soaked from the rain. Inside, a photograph of my car on the night it first followed me. The figure stood beside it, pointing directly at me, but there was more. Another figure behind mine, Faint, shadowy, indistinct. A warning or a hint of what awaited me? The weeks dragged on. My life became a sequence of observation, flight, and terror. Every rainstorm was a countdown, every shadow a potential encounter, and yet, fascination mingled with fear. I had glimpsed something beyond understanding, something not meant for human comprehension. By now, I had learned one undeniable truth. It wasn't random. It had chosen me for reasons I didn't know. It wasn't just following. It was shaping the path of my life, manipulating reality around me. Every encounter had meaning, though I couldn't decipher Italiano. And the closer I tried to get, the closer it became, always maintaining that impossible, gliding distance, just at the edge of perception. The storm had become my constant companion. Every night, rain lashed against my windows as if echoing the relentless presence that haunted me. I couldn't escape it. I couldn't hide. No matter where I went, no matter how fast I drove or how far I ran, the figure always reappeared, gliding silently, impossibly fast, ahead of me, watching. My reflection in every window, every puddle, every mirror showed more than just me. It hinted at something lurking just beyond sight. I started noticing changes in my own perception. Sounds were sharper in their warnings. Footsteps in empty corridors louder. Every creak of the floorboards magnified into a sinister signal. The whispers returned, now distinct, yet still unintelligible, circling my head with increasing urgency. It's your turn. Your time. Your time. I tried to shake it off, rationalize it. But logic was useless against something that didn't obey the laws of reality. One night, driven by fear and some desperate need for confrontation, I left my apartment. Rain soaked me instantly, cold and heavy, and the streets glistened with reflections of flickering streetlights. That's when I saw it. Gliding across the intersection ahead, taller than any human, faceless, blacker than the night itself, it stood still for a fraction of a second, and I could feel its gaze. Piercing, inescapable. My chest tightened, breath catching in my throat. Every instinct screamed to run. But my legs froze. I moved forward anyway, drawn by a compulsion I couldn't explain. The figure didn't flinch, didn't move, simply observed. And then, as if deciding I'd passed its first test, it raised a hand, or at least the space where a hand should have been. And I felt a cold pressure in my chest, like the world itself was pushing me down, bending reality. A wave of nausea swept through me. My vision blurred, and the rain seemed to fall slower, heavier, almost alive. I stumbled backward, nearly hitting the curb. The figure glided closer, silently, over the puddles, not touching them, yet warping everything around it. Shadows stretched unnaturally from streetlights, twisting like black fingers toward me. I tried to shout, but no sound escaped. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. The air was thick, heavy, pressing against my skin, and then I understood. This was no ordinary fear. This was a presence, intelligent, deliberate, shaping every moment to drive me to the edge. I ran. My feet splashed through the waterlogged streets, legs burning, lungs screaming for air. But no matter how far I went, it was there, waiting at every turn, every corner, always ahead, always observing. My mind fractured under the weight of the relentless pursuit. I realized that this figure didn't just follow me. It manipulated my surroundings, bending reality, making streets unfamiliar, alleys longer, rain heavier, darkness denser. Hours blurred into each other. Time became meaningless. I couldn't tell day from night, only the constant presence, the silent gliding, the whispering wind. And then I noticed something horrifying. In reflections, I wasn't alone. Sometimes, I glimpsed the figure behind me, faint but unmistakable, or beside me in windows, moving in impossible ways. It wasn't just stalking me physically, it was invading every perception, every sense. I tried reasoning with it. I spoke into the void, demanding answers, pleading for some sign of humanity, some explanation, but silence was the only response. And then came the next escalation. My apartment, the place I thought was safe, was no longer mine. Furniture subtly shifted, shadows darker and thicker, corners bending in ways that made no architectural sense. A sense of being watched pervaded every room. I could feel it, always near, waiting. The first note had warned me, "You can't escape." But the next one escalated the terror. A package slid under my door in the dead of night. Inside, a photograph of my car from the night it had first followed me, and a faint shadow standing impossibly beside it, pointing directly at me. The message was clear. I was chosen, marked, and every step I had taken since had been anticipated. Sleep was impossible. The dreams mirrored reality. The figure, always present, gliding silently, observing, testing me. Every street, every puddle, every flicker of light became part of a nightmare I couldn't leave. My life became a sequence of observation, flight, and terror. Even my own reflection was suspect, every movement hinting at a presence just behind me. One evening, the rain heavier than ever, I received a final note. Simple, white paper, one line. "You saw me. Now. You belong." Primera started at it. Stomach churning, chest tight. The inevitability, the doom, pressed down on me. I realized then that this wasn't just fear. It was a claim. I was no longer merely a witness. I was part of something beyond comprehension. A participant in a game I had not agreed to play. I haven't left my apartment since. Even now, writing this, I feel it in the quiet corners, in the flicker of the light, in reflections of windows. Watching, waiting. The city itself seems aware. Conspiratorial stage for a presence that bends reality, feeds on fear, thrives on attention. I know I am not alone, even in solitude. The figure's reach is everywhere. Patient. Patient for the next moment when it can reappear. And yet, an irrational compulsion keeps me documenting, tracking, recording. Perhaps it is defiance, perhaps survival. That, deep down, I know. Knowledge won't save me. Understanding won't protect me. It exists beyond reason, beyond logic, beyond human comprehension. And one day, it will return, and there will be no escape. So, if you live near dark streets on rainy nights, be careful. Shadows are not always harmless. Some presences are patient. Some wait for you to notice. And some choose you. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell, and leave a like and comment below. Share what terrified you the most. I read every single comment, and your stories might inspire the next terrifying encounter. And remember, watch carefully, because some things are always watching back.